Connor Meekins, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Only have known you for a few months, but you're just someone that you light up every room and just always have had great connections with you every time we're together. So just when I was starting to think about who to interview in person and get my podcast started back up, like you were one of the first people that came to mind, just the way you carry yourself, the interactions we have. So I'm super excited for this and all the inspiration it's going to bring, but just to connect more with you one-on-one. So thank you for being here.
Dude, I'm happy to be here, man. And that was an amazingly warm way to intro me. And I'm just thankful for you, honestly, bro. I sometimes hear compliments and I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm able to accept those. For a long time in my life, I would like push back compliments like, dang, Matt says I light up every room I walk in. I'd be like, no. I don't do that, you know? But I realize when somebody says that to you, they're giving you a genuine compliment. So I've been working on being in a state of receiving. And so I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, of course. And so your whole story, just to sum it up, like you played soccer in college, then you go into a corporate job and you decide later on, like, this isn't for me. I want to, the money and the status, it doesn't matter to me. I want to work for myself. I want to pursue a more meaningful life. And it's so admirable for you. So first off, like, what was life like after college? You get into the 9-to-5 world, chasing what you thought was success and what you wanted to do. How was your fulfillment and personal success at that point in your life?
Well, I just had grown up thinking when you look at jobs, you're looking for what's the salary, like how does this pay, what's the career path? Like we have all these ideas of what we believe we should be looking for in a career. And so I always knew that I was super into the physical part of our being, right? Like getting stronger and more athletic. And I had always grown up just diving into basketball and soccer and just leaned into sport my entire childhood. When I was in college, man, let's talk about how much I crushed it my freshman semester at junior college. I got a 1.6 GPA in junior college. I didn't know you could actually, out of 4.0, you have to actually try to get that low of a GPA.
Right.
So I just kind of had that idea of I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. And when my guidance counselor in high school, senior year, brought me in and said, you probably have to make a decision. What's your move? I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll play soccer somewhere. And I knew the coach at the local junior college wanted to bring me in, and so I just did that, and then I didn't go to class. So apparently they're serious when they say if you don't come to class a number of times, they mark you off the grades. So I had to learn that, and so I ended up getting to exercise science, kind of like the exercise physiology route, more like a pre-physical therapy track. And I wasn't a huge school guy, so I just realized about 2.5 years in, I just wanted to do something that I could get out and graduate and instantly just earn money. So I went the finance route and just kind of went into the corporate world with the idea of, okay, this is a job where I can get promoted, increase salary, get paid more. And by the time I was 25, I was making 6 figures. And living in Chicago, thinking that was success.
Right.
Man, I'm 25. I remember my manager brought me into a room one time and he's like, I had just gotten promoted to the business development role, which is true sales for those who are kind of in that world. I was a sales consultant in a sales support role, and then I had moved up to a business development role in about 9 months. And my manager brought me in and he said, Connor, congratulations. He said, when times get tough, just know that you're in the top 1% of people your age in the money you're making. So it's like, you think about that, and nothing against him because he's a great dude, but you think about how a kid hears that at 25, and that kind of says to me that let's not deal with the true emotional problem that's going on here or the deeper spiritual problem that's going on here. Let's just be like, yeah, I'm making money.
Yep.
Let's go make more money. I remember a partner of mine in the company I worked for was called Asset Mark. And a partner of mine said, he was like, well, Connor, I know it's not easy, but just think about that Ferrari that you could buy.
Mm.
You know, it was always a painted picture of something externally that I could have.
Yeah, and knowing you, that probably doesn't resonate.
Dude, not at all. Yeah. And so, just like in my 20s, I was looking for mentorship everywhere. I'd just come home from work and read personal growth books because I just wanted to get better and listen to podcasts. But I didn't have a lot of people that I felt were investing in me. They would just say things and maybe assume something because of the way that the world is or society is. But I had this God-sized hole in my heart. I think every time I come on a podcast, I quote John Bellion. He has a song called Stupid Deep. It says, what if who I hoped to be was always me and the love I fought to feel was always free? What if all the things I've done were just attempts at earning love, but the hole inside my heart is stupid deep? He says, stupid deep. Like that sounds a lot like my hole.
Yeah.
You know, so that was that, man. And I just I kind of kept working that direction and ultimately just, you know, we can go on with the story if you want, like about where I ended up. But, you know, that was at that time, that's what I just thought success was just earning money. And that's what I had been taught. But I was just empty at that point.
Yeah. I think most people can relate to that because that's what we're preached. Like, you need to go to school, find a job, and most of it's around how much is it going to pay. And you look at someone like, I have a goal to be a teacher. Like, that's a very impactful job. The teacher salary is way below most other industries. People look at you like, you're not making money. You know, there's so many different scenarios where people just look at the price tag or the salary on things and they place the value just based on that. And that can eat away at you. And it takes a special person to say, I don't care about that aspect because I'm fulfilled. Most people aren't like that. They're just like, I am going to attach all the value to something on how much is it worth? How much am I getting paid? How much are my expenses, etc.? How much is my Ferrari? You know? So I applaud you for recognizing like there's way more to this than just the salary, the status, saying I work in finance. Because most people are looking at like, I'm good. I got into that. I'm good. Like, I'm set up. Maybe I'm not fulfilled, but that's fine. When was the first moment in your life where you thought, I'm made for more than just this?
Well, as you were talking, the phrase that kept coming back up for me is that most of us don't change until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of making a change. And dude, I applaud people, honestly, in a way, like I applaud people who just can stick with a career that they continue to just level up, make more money, because like, I don't know, I couldn't keep doing that. I literally like didn't have it in my soul anymore to do that. I don't even know how people keep going eventually in their lives with not filling the hole in their heart. And I guess maybe I don't like, I say I applaud, like, but it's like, I'm just saying people are incredibly resilient, but it's like, where's your North Star, right? Because if you just kept going east when God was calling you to go west, you just keep going further and further and further away from the calling. And so I just kept feeling like I was going further and further and further away from the calling. And I think it was just through a series of decisions that didn't align with my heart that I finally was just like, this is miserable. And I remember going and visiting a friend in Raleigh, North Carolina, and this was April 2nd of 2022. And so this is slightly over a couple years ago. We had gone out to the bars. We were up late. We were hanging out, you know, just doing what guys do when guys go out, right? Having fun and looking for thrills. And I get back. We order a massive pizza and go to sleep. And I wake up and I feel this tingling sensation in my left leg. I'm like, that's really strange. I don't know what's going on here. And I remember, I think it was a Sunday, honestly, where we went out and it was like Sunday fun day. And we woke up and it was Monday. So I pulled up my laptop. This is like still COVID time. And so I'm working remote and can work from wherever. And I just sat on his living room floor and just absolutely lost it. I started crying, I started breaking down, and I was just totally miserable. I'm like, I hate this. I know part of me wants to do this job, no part of me wants to live this lifestyle. And that tingling in my leg has been a part of what's been a recovery journey of over 2 years now of nerves and issues in my nerves. And I think partially that's just because of physical and athletic pursuits, but another part of it is just pushing and packing things down that I never wanted to deal with at the time, and just continuing to fill my life externally with more and more and more distractions. I'm like, what are you going to do? Just keep distracting yourself to misery? You just going to, when things get hard, pull up your Instagram app again and scroll and scroll and scroll and look for something? Are you going to keep just going out and drinking when you know that you are called to do so much more? I mean, LionFit's been on my heart, bro. It was on my heart when I was 19, 20 years old. And so I just had to, things had to get so rocky for me that I knew I had to make a change.
Yeah.
And that didn't fully happen until August 23rd of last year, where I woke up the next day, August 24th, and was like, I'm done. I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. I couldn't get out of bed to do my work.
Yeah. I want to touch on that because you went on a trip with your friends before that, correct?
Yeah.
And you guys were out enjoying life, and you have this awakening, like, I need to get away from this. And you come back to the same routine, the same emails, the same calls, the same work.
Yeah.
What was that experience like when you're like, I am so far removed from my identity, my job, I want something new, and you come back to that same spot that you were previously?
Well, I realized that that was a pattern, and that I had multiple moments of when I would almost decide in my heart that I was done, but the paradigm was so strong that it just kept bringing me back to the same inbox, the same CRM, the same ideas of having to make those phone calls and having to set those meetings and having to do the things. And I think fear is what really truly holds us in those positions, and believing that we are only meant for our current position. And that dream is like, oh, other people can do that, but I can't.
Right.
I've heard it said before, we tend to minimize the things we can do, the goals we can accomplish, and for some equally strange reason, we think that other people can accomplish those same goals. And then it said, you got to realize that you have reservoirs of potential and capability within you. Our spiritual DNA is perfect. It's just unexpressed. But if I keep saying the Ferrari and the money and the thing and the next level up, the promotion, look at how far my arms are reaching, dude. I'm out here. I'm out here. I'm out here. What am I going to do about this?
Yeah.
What am I going to do about this part of me, man? Like the heart. We can't tend to the needs of the heart when we're constantly looking for validation and approval and am I good enough, or is this going to work out in the world? That's all worldly stuff. And so we have to tap back into that part of us that knows the truth. And so just, I think breaking, my identity had to like completely shatter. I had to have every part of me break down. I had to have Christ come into my life in a moment where I least expected it and say, you no longer have to keep striving. It's not about accolades, performance, about something you did in this world. It's about, I voted for you. I voted for you. You're here because God needed you here. God wanted you here. He voted for you. It's not by some like chance or random occurrence. You actually have a true purpose and a calling. And if you're fighting it, you're just going to feel more and more and more lost.
Right.
And so I think it's time for us to step up as human beings and stop trying to please other people, because you'll please one person and another will be upset.
Yeah.
And that's only two people. We're talking about like people who have Instagram followings and they got thousands and even millions of followers now. It's like, how are you going to please all those people if you're always focused on their opinion, their wants, their needs? Turns out it's not about them. They have their own calling. It's about you and getting back to who you truly are and who God made you to be. And I guess sometimes we just have to have almost every part of us break down to just sit there and be like, God, I'm yours.
Yeah.
I'm yours.
Mm-hmm.
Do with me what you will. It's not my will be done. It's thy will be done.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus says that in Matthew. Man, I've just been, all I can do, dude, is right now I just read the Bible. I'm struggling, read the Bible. This isn't working out, go home, read the Bible. Like I've been broken, bro. And I realized how much healing that I needed, and that Jesus is a healer, man.
Right.
He's a true healer.
Amen to that. Where did your walk of faith first start to develop? Because, you know, was it your whole life you're like, I'm going to get into the Word, I'm going to go to church? Or was it finally one realization, hey, this is the direction I need to head?
I realized in reading Matthew the other night that, like, the prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, that we always used to say in Catholic church growing up, like, that was Jesus actually saying that this is a prayer for you. And those are his words. And so I didn't even know what getting into the Word really was. We would go to Catholic school when I was a young man, we go to Catholic church, and then I'd go to Sunday school, and I just wanted to leave. I was like, this is boring. I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Everyone had that experience.
Dude, right? So it was just, Mom, when can I go play basketball?
Yeah.
You know, and so it was just, that was my experience. And so I always kind of had this idea of God's real. Like, God's here. He's a part of life, and I'd like thank God. And I always saw Steph Curry growing up, and he'd point up like this when he'd make a bucket. And I think when we're young people, we often look toward those that we look up to in this world. And for me, it was really like NBA superstars when I was a young man. I was in like 7th grade and then going through high school. I just saw Steph Curry playing for Davidson, and just absolutely electric. Mm-hmm. And this is a man who's like skinny as a rail at the time.
Yeah.
And nobody knew his name. And then all of a sudden he's in the Elite Eight playing against Kansas. I'm there. My mom buys tickets. We're in like the 18th row. And I'm watching this dude and just absolutely break apart one of the best teams in the country. Scored 28. I think they lost by like 2 that game to like Kansas, who won the championship. Mm-hmm. And it's like absolutely insane. It's like Steph Curry against the world.
Right.
So I'm watching this young man just do anything. And Steph Curry has been fueled by faith his whole life. So I think I had influences. My mom was a strong influence, and she's kind of had her times in life where she's needed the Lord more than anything. And we just bounce ideas and concepts and prayers and all kinds of stuff to each other like every single day. But I had to go through it, man. I had to go through the trials, the ups, the downs, the sins, the guilt, the fear, the shame. I had to run away from God and realize that he is always just waiting for us to come home. Mm. And God wants you to call him. It's not one of those things where it's like, hey, I know we have a scheduled call like every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Make sure you call me. It's like, no, you're struggling and there's traffic that's bothering you at 4:55 p.m. and you're frustrated and it was a bad day at work and nothing's going right in your life. Talk to God. You don't need to listen to the next EDM banger or whatever that's going to distract you. And this is me, by the way, talking to myself.
Yeah.
And
push things down.
Push things down. Get away. Get away. Things are tough. I don't care. To eat your Sour Patch Kids, take pre-workout and get a good pump in.
Right. Yep.
Like, you know, and you Paul says, I believe it's in Ephesians, pray in the Spirit at all times. Pray constantly. And we need to realize that we can pray anytime. We can talk to God at any point. So over time, I realized, like God, you're always there for me. Mm-hmm. You're always waiting for me to come home. You're always waiting for me to call your line. It was just, was I ready to lean in? And so I think it's just, dude, the human experience, sometimes we just have to have things our way, go completely the opposite way of how we predicted. We have to have goals that we set that we just absolutely failed at.
Yeah.
You know, I've said a lot of like, I'm a big goal setter, right? And then I'm really mad when I don't achieve something that I set out to do, but I realized that it was a selfish goal and that God had a plan the whole time. And that selfish goals, like I'm so thankful for what God didn't allow me to do. The direction he didn't let me take. The path that he didn't let me go down. Mm-hmm. And he's always going to knock you upside the head from time to time. I have 12 staples in my head from earlier this week. Which I'll hit on for like 2 seconds. I was walking home from Soho House 2 nights ago, and it was pouring down rain. And you know Jay, right?
Yep.
I can't make this up, bro. The night before, Jay and I are outside a collective, South. And it's just him and me in the parking lot. And we're talking about the rain. And he's like, Connor, when are you upset that it's raining? And I said, when I'm not prepared for it. He's like, say it again. I'm like, when I'm not prepared for it. He said, that's right. You're upset about the rain when you're not prepared for it. But if you walk outside, if you walk inside collective, it's sunny when you walk in, right? And it's rainy when you walk out. Like he says that you're not prepared for it. You're all mad. You're upset. You know, you're like, why is it raining? You're like rushing to your car. You're throwing things in the trunk. Why is it raining? This sucks. Throwing your windshield wipers on. But he's like, but if you're prepared and you checked the forecast and you knew that it was going to rain later and you have your umbrella and you have your rain boots, you're walking to the car. You're chilling.
Yeah.
Right?
No problem.
Everything's good. I got my umbrella. Nothing can touch me. I'm fine. You're slowly opening the door. It's all good. And like, so I'm thinking about this. I'm like, man, he's right. And you know, and you're just upset about the rain when you're not prepared for it. And so the next day, I'm walking home from Soho. It is pouring down rain. I mean, it's harder rain than I've seen in the last few months.
Right.
It's like a torrential downpour. And I'm walking in that back part of like behind collective area.
Yep.
And I go to hop a puddle, and I don't know what kind of box it is. I want to say it's an electrical box. And as I'm jumping, like, whoo, think I'm going to make it, my head smacks this box. And I have a laceration in the top of my head. I had to get 12 staples at the ER. And I go home. I called Jay, and I'm like, bro. And I FaceTime him. He's like, ah, what's up? I showed him my head. And I'm like, I think we need to go get this taken care of, get some stitches or something. And I hang up the phone, and I sit there on my bed. I put my head in my hands, and I just start breaking down. Not because my head hurt. I'm a strong guy.
Right, yep.
I really am. I'm a strong guy. But because I have not been living up to my full potential, or even close. Is that rain, by the way?
That's crazy. It's actually crazy.
We can't make this up.
No.
We can't.
That was like right when you started talking about it, too.
Yeah.
It's wild.
That's actually wild. Pitter patter, right?
Yep.
Hey, God. And so I haven't seen my family all year. I miss my family more than anything. My mom keeps telling me, buy the plane ticket tomorrow. Don't wait till next Thursday. I think I'm going home for 3.5 weeks. I keep telling myself because I'm going home for 3.5 weeks, it's cool to just push back. Oh, I have more time later, so I'm just going to like extend the stay. That's like not how it works, dude. You don't wait till things get so bad that you're bloody and have staples in your head and things are just worse than they've ever been, and you can hardly get out of bed because your physical body, your nerves hurt because you're pushing things down more. You just take care of things as you need to take care of them. And like Tess and I just talked about, like we're great at telling others what they need to be doing, right? Oh, you need to take your, whatever. You need to drink your lemon water and eat your, take your vitamin C and be healthy and drink water and sleep and rest and recover and all these things. But when it comes to ourselves, we just push harder and harder and harder and harder until we break. And I love this saying, treat yourself as someone you're responsible for taking care of. Because if I were to set myself in that chair and see the stuff that I was going through, I'd be like, Connor, we got to take care of this, man.
Yeah, wake up. Let's go.
Wake up. Like, let's do this, man. You're tired. You're exhausted. You're frustrated. You're anxious. Those same fear patterns are revealing themselves again. Slow down. You need to ruthlessly eliminate hurry in your life. His love is patient, it's kind, it's generous, it's forgiving. And he's just waiting for you to come back home. So I know I'm like, that was a very...
Such a good message, though. Yeah.
It's a long-winded way of your question of when did you realize that you needed God or faith or... That's just... I mean, I think it's been building the whole time.
Yeah. Like what I hear from you is it's ongoing. You might get it. Like we look at inflection points in life, like up and down or whatever. Where is that point where if you look at a normal graph, there's always change.
Yes.
It's always inflection points. So it's not always just one moment you can look and say like, this was it. Because you might have had one 5 years ago, but you had one 2 days ago as well.
Yeah. It's so true, man. You know, I could talk to Kristen on her podcast and tell her, you know, it was this moment. And then I say something to you and I'm like, then there was this moment. It's not that those moments weren't both moments or that anyone had bigger or deeper meaning. It's that they were the buildup.
Yeah.
And that we're always doing this mental recall when we're thinking about our lives and our stories. And there's so many of them. And I could think back to times where, I mean, I think back to a time where I was living in my studio apartment in Chicago. Dude, I lived on the 4th floor of a 46-floor high-rise, and my apartment looked down at the river in Chicago. It was like I was on a cruise ship and lived in this studio. It was the most beautiful spot. And I had a friend call me, and he's like, Connor, dude, I feel like you're just crushing it in life, man. You're in this beautiful apartment in Chicago. You travel all the time. I just saw you in Croatia. You do all these cool trips. He pointed to like my Instagram and he's like, dude, you're just doing all these cool things. And I was like, bro, I'm not very happy right now. Like I am like lost and I don't want to do this job. And I don't feel like I know who I am and I don't know what direction I'm going. And so I just think a lot of times in my life, externally, things have looked really like they're going, like things are cooking. And internally, I'm just in this world of brokenness. And I don't mean to paint it as like I just like struggled all the time, but like there have certainly been moments of like I didn't tend to, again, the thing that I needed to like take care of early, and I just kept letting it going, go. And I'll be the first to say I want to do things alone oftentimes and just be like, nope.
Yep. I can handle it.
Add another plate to the bench. I got this.
Yeah.
You know, but that doesn't work when your sciatic nerve is flaring up and you're like, okay, I hurt. This hurts.
Yeah.
And you got to tend to those things in your life.
Yeah.
You know,
it's such a good message. Like first off, we had a good laugh downstairs. I sit down. Tess goes, you see Connor's head? And I'm like, yeah, you got a mullet. He looks great. Like, yes, but no. He has 12 staples in his head.
Bro, you're so funny.
I had no idea.
Just hype me up.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, come on, Matt. Like,
Right.
let's go. The mullet's in.
Yeah, that's funny. But it's so powerful hearing you say that because I think there's always been a stigma, like men have to just appear as powerful and strong and like you can't show anything, and if you have a weakness or you have struggle, then you're weak for that. There's a problem with that. And for you, like outside looking in at the gym, you know, you're crushing your workouts, you look great, you're a nutrition coach, like you're dialed in on that, you know what you're talking about. Someone asks you a question, like it's like, damn, he knows his stuff, right? in business, like you have huge goals. At first appointment, always have amazing things to say. You have great wisdom. You have great questions to ask. So people view you as like, Connor's got his shit together. You know, Connor's doing great, but everybody always struggles. And to be vulnerable and say like, things aren't going great right now, or there's this hole right now I need to fill. Something's calling me to do something a little bit differently, or I need to just reevaluate, slow down. So I admire you for doing that, because not many people either pick up on those clues or take action to say like, hey, I'm getting pulled in a different direction. I need to slow down. I need to do something different. So what would you say to someone who like, they think they always need to come across as like, I got everything together. Like, I'm a victim of this. Whenever stuff is going wrong in my life, I need to do something difficult to like prove myself right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, I need to fix it. But that's how men think.
Yeah.
And there's some women out there that think that too.
Yeah.
You can't show that weakness.
Yeah.
You can't be alone with your thoughts or be alone with God and say like, I'm struggling. Like, I surrender.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that person?
Well, I think that the thing we want to do often is look for a way out of our situation. And we often do that now in our world by watching a YouTube video or like pulling up Instagram and we want to get inspired, right? Yeah. You pull up anything, you can find inspiration from anywhere. But oftentimes it becomes a trap because we're like, man, that person's crushing it. I don't know if I can ever reach that goal. Like, and it's like we always find people who are just like absolutely, for the most part, people who are just saying like things are crushing and wow, this is amazing. And so we want to get inspired. We want to motivate our way out of a problem that's deeper emotionally. And so, or we want to logic our way out of an emotional problem. And it's like, dude, the last Instagram post I put up about LionFit, which took me forever to launch an item, which I was going to launch months ago. Again, dealing with emotional stuff, like just, okay, I can do this, I can do this. The 4 words that I posted at the beginning were get in the game, get in the game, get in the game. And Pastor Scott and I have been talking about this. Like his message was, I woke up the morning of last Sunday's message, and those are the 4 words that I felt God literally had put on my heart of like, get in the game, stop living on the sidelines. You need to get in the game. And Scott's message was perfectly aligned with that of you need to like, you take risks. You're not meant to like sit there and do nothing. And I know that Dale Carnegie says this, man. He says inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. Action breeds confidence and courage. You have to think about that, right? If you want to conquer a fear, don't sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So I was a blue arrow send away from telling you I wasn't going to show up today, dude. At 9:45 a.m.
Yep.
You know, it's 11:30 is our podcast. So this is less than 2 hours before. And something told me that maybe one person can hear what I'm going through and it can resonate with them. My only other option, Matt, I'm going to be honest, was sit there and be like, I'm just going to rest today. I'm going to sit in my apartment. I'm not going to, I'll show up to Matt's podcast when I feel good. I'll show up to Matt's podcast when everything is, once I go back and visit my family for 3 weeks. I'll be fresh then. I think a lot of us are waiting to be perfectly fresh, and none of us are perfect. And so if you're struggling, if you're having a really hard time, I think the 4 words I say are get in the game.
Yeah.
Start truly showing up. Because if you keep sitting home, you're just going to keep focusing on your problems and get more selfish about it, right? Because that's what we do. We go back into that protective mode. And that's the enemy's territory, bro. Isolation. That's the tactic he loves the most. Isolate. Get him out of the playing field. Put him on the bench. Get him hurt, get him injured, whatever. And a lot of the injuries are mental, dude, these days. It's like, it may not even be physical. We're not fighting against flesh and blood enemies. We're fighting against enemies of the unseen world. Right? So how do you fight an enemy that you can't see? They say the word is your sword. You have to constantly sharpen your sword.
Right.
So we had a conversation about the word earlier. Dude, I didn't know the word was your sword. I learned that like a few months ago. And so we had to put on that full suit of armor, pick up our sword, and go back out and start fighting. So I hope that offers a little bit of insight. I know it's the hardest thing to do is to move when you're stuck. But I think one of the most dangerous places to be is when you keep looking for it in a video or in some sort of motivational tactic.
Yeah.
And you just need to move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First off, thank you for showing up. You know, and I hope everybody listening to this. It means a lot to me, but understand the circumstance. Like, you didn't have to do this. You could have very well just said, like, I need to rest, and like, no one would fault you for that. So I do appreciate that, and I think this would make such a big impact on people, like, really understand where Connor's coming from here. And to that point of get in the game, leaving clues, all these things, like, you're open to change in your life, and it seems like you're never like too comfortable, like, this is how I need to be. You know, it's always like, I can progress forward, I can get better, I can keep doing this and serving others. And the fact that you're able to show up today, or you post great Instagram stories like, hey, here's what's on my mind right now, I just want to inspire people, or just like interactions in the gym. I'm huge on the ripple effect. Like, even if you touch one person, what is that going to do to their connections? That might have someone show up differently and they impact 10 people. What are those 10 people going to do? And all of a sudden, like, one thing you say, one thing that you do, the way you show up could impact millions and you have no idea. I think that's like one of the most powerful ways we can lead. People get too caught up in like, how many downloads am I getting? How many likes am I getting? How many views? How many people see me on a daily basis? If you can really hone in on, like, I have 5 people in front of me right now, how can I really impact them?
Yeah.
And if 3 people go really take action on that, what can they do?
Yeah.
You know, in my coaching, I'm coaching these 2 business partners. They're at Collective, and part of their program, they're like, we don't want to go to the gym on weekends. I'm like, that's fine. You guys got families. Like, I understand. I'm like, let's get some cardio in. Get a weighted vest, go for a 45-minute walk. You know, you can do that morning when your kids are still sleeping, whatever. There was a time several weeks ago, one of them sent me a selfie. He's outside, weighted vest on, kids are behind him. And I'm just like, that call to action of on Trainerize, you've seen outdoor walk, 45 minutes, you just got to check a box, and now you're taking your kids with you. You lead them by example. What would that ripple do to them? Like, I see dad doing this. They grow up, you know, they're starting to become leaders themselves. They could start to change people around them. So I think you're a perfect embodiment of that. Of like, how can I be present in this moment? Like, obviously we're talking here, there's no distractions, but like, talking to you in a crowded room, there's no distractions. Like, you're locked in. So keep doing that. But like, how does that resonate with you? Like, do you recognize, like, hey, I want to really impact this one person? Are you trying to reach millions? Like, how does your impact come into play?
Number one, that was a beautiful story, man. I really appreciate you sharing. And it's funny because I did half of my headspace meditation this morning, and the little part at the beginning where he's speaking about a little message was talking about the ripple effect. And so it's divinely timed, my friend.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. And, you know, I just think to myself, man, a couple things. Who needs my light today? And how can I show up and most effectively serve? And those are 2 prompts that I use all the time, right? Because it's not really about me. It's about how can I show up for you? And just listen. Listening is a skill.
Yeah.
We have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth.
For a reason.
For a reason, right? Use them in proportion. So and what do they say in the Bible? Be quick to listen and slow to speak, right? There's a reason why that's said. And I think maybe a reason why a lot of people are maybe hurting right now more than in the past. I don't know if that's totally true, but it just kind of feels like that, you know, where social media is taking off and there's just a lot of ways to almost do things on an online version rather than an in-person version. So I just think that for me, it's like important to be number one in the game, then also just be present when I'm with people, because who knows how much somebody needed you in that moment. Not just to say, oh, hi, how are you? Okay, great to see you. It's like, no, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And what's going on? Tell me about your life. I'd love to hear the highlight of your day.
I was just talking about that with someone recently. Like, it almost frustrates me, like, being here at the gym a lot, like, great people, but as a society, we get so much into, like, hey, how are you? And it's always just like, good, how are you? Good, thanks.
Right.
Walk away.
It's an exchange,
Like,
right? It's like this like little transaction of,
Yeah.
of, okay, cool, we said our piece, and dude, you didn't even think about what you just said.
Right. Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm great.
Same thing
Nice.
with goodbye. Like, have a good day. You too.
Yeah.
Do you really mean it?
But we just do, right?
Right.
We're not carrying that conversation with us for or having an experience where it's like, wow, I'm so glad that I talked to that person. I needed that conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like nothing wrong with just exchange, like the hey, like it's great. But like, I just think that we're going through this world in a day, especially in a city as fast paced as Austin, we can go through an entire day and you go home and realize, did I even have one meaningful conversation today?
Yep.
I saw lots of people. I saw hundreds of people. Did I have one meaningful conversation? And dude, Matt, if I can do one thing for anybody, I want to be that one person who when you walk home at night, you're like, wow, I'm really thankful that I talked to Connor today. Not because go me. It's not that. It's that it could be me, it could be somebody else, but you had one meaningful conversation. And I just believe that that heaven looks something like that, where it's like, just, wow, I'm really glad you showed up. I'm really glad that, like, it's just a bunch of people that are thankful that they're around and they're just with one another and can enjoy the company and just love one another. And I don't know, maybe we think about heaven all the time, and I'm sure lots of people have different pictures of what that looks like, but I just see it as a place where we give first.
Yeah.
We don't just look for ways to level up in ourselves or frantically run around or just like go to the next goal or chase the next thing, but that we show up for one another. We just constantly give. So that's kind of how I look at it.
I love that. Yeah, amazing right there. I want to go back to LionFit real quick.
Yeah.
So we talked before, you're like, people see LionFit today, they have no idea this was in the making for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
It's just an idea. It's something I felt called to. And you spent time years and years ago drawing out a logo, right?
Yeah.
Just drawing a lion.
Yeah.
Whatever, maybe you didn't even understand what it was supposed to be, what it could become. It's just like, I feel called to do this. You talk about getting in the game right now. Like, you have these little hints. And what, for that, like, how do you chase them? How do you say, like, I recognize this as a hint and a clue, not just like, oh, like, what am I thinking about? I'm confused. Push it down. There's a good quote, God planned that heart, or that plan on your heart for a reason, or that goal, that dream on your heart for a reason. Like, this is because, like, what's that one thing? There's a great quote or little riff from Chris Williamson, one of his podcasts. It's like, what's that one thing? Like that book you can't stop thinking about. The one thing, like, you're excited to call your mom and be like, I'm thinking about this. And people might be like, what are you talking about? But like, in your mind, it's like, I am so excited about this. I don't know what it is or how it's going to happen, but like, this is it. This is my thing. So how can we take that from, I'm thinking about this, I feel inspired, to like actually take action, even if it takes, the 10 plus years. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but to actually turn that into reality.
Well, I think you just hit on one part of it with the one thing. And inside of that book, there's a to-do list. Like, it shows a picture of a to-do list, and it's a bunch of could do, should do. Could do, should do. And then on the side of that, it shows a success list. And it eliminates all the could do's and keeps like the 3 or 4 should do's. And on the side of that, there's the one thing. And that's the one thing that if you just did that, that would take your dream, goal, or vision and propel it way further than any of the could do's or even the should do's.
Yeah.
And the should do's are good, right? Like, and the could do's are like, yeah, we could get to that, right? But it's like, the one thing is, that's the most important one single thing that if you did, that the rest of the things would kind of have a domino effect, right? And there's a great book called The War of Art about resistance and how resistance is just this big scary thing, and we're always facing it, and we feel it, and you know, it's tough. It's tough to confront, and it feels like it's always there, especially when there's something really important that needs to get done. But I really think, Matt, it's just important to, like, Jesus had the quiet place, right, where he would go and you know, people saw Jesus and his great acts of healing and transforming, and how he was with people, and it was just incredible. But he would go back to that sacred place, that quiet place, and he'd just pray, and he'd talk to the Father, and he'd go and you know, he had that time to reflect, recharge, and just realign with that, the best parts of God and what God is calling us to do. Mm-hmm. And so I think we have to separate the noise from the signal, right? Like, we have to know that in the world there's a lot of noise and a lot of stimulation, and we have to be able to hear what the signal is. Does that make sense?
Yep,
the noise
absolutely.
versus the signal?
Yep.
So we always know what we have to do. You know what you have to do. Mm-hmm. I know what I have to do, right? The question is, why aren't we doing it?
Right.
It's probably because we're so distracted that we're having a really hard time handling and understanding what it is truly that needs to be done. It's kind of blocked. It's there, but it's just like, it's cloudy. It's we can sort of see it, but it's like, I don't know. It's really blurred at the moment. Mm-hmm. So we have to be able to find some peace, some quiet, and just get back to that place where it's like, it's just you and God, and just, okay, I'm crystal clear about the vision. And I talked to a great man named Jim Stovall. He's a mentor of Vanessa and Kristen.
I'm reading his book, right? Or
Campos.
One of his books.
Oh,
I know
okay.
he has a lot.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, which one?
Wisdom for Winners.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, I've been reading that before bed. So Vanessa and Kristen kept telling me, call Jim. Like, call Jim. Call Jim. And they told me 3 times. And one thing I know, especially with people I care about, is that if they tell me something 3 times, then I should probably go do it.
Yeah.
And so I called Jim, and Jim has been blind for a long time. Mm-hmm. And the reason I mention this is because Jim said to me, sight is convenient, but it's for lack of vision that the people perish. Right? Mm-hmm. So we're very blessed. We have sight.
Yeah.
We can see the world. We can see the next step. We can see people. We can see God's majesty and all the things. But we get so lost when it comes to our vision.
Exactly.
So that absolutely shook me. I was like, this man has accomplished more than most people will ever accomplish in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And he's been blind. I don't know how long he's been blind for, but like what many people would view as a limitation, he has taken and completely flipped that and changed the world. Mm-hmm. So I'm like,
it's incredible.
Right? It's like, what are we waiting for? You know?
Yeah. It's like all those like inspiring transformations you see on Instagram, or like you think about like a David Goggins, like 300 pounds, like the hardest man in the world. Like, some people are dealt with much more difficult cards than you have.
Yeah.
And they've done so much more. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's almost like, be appreciative for what you have, but also like, you almost have a head start over some people.
Yeah.
Some people that they're born with a disability, or they grow up in the wrong family, the wrong side of town. Like, they got a lot to fight for.
Totally.
They got a long way to go.
Totally.
And some of them overcome that and so much more.
Yeah.
Change the world.
Yeah.
And then other people are just like, I'm average and I'm cool with that. And like, yeah, like, that's always going to be around us, but understand, like, if you want more, like, you can get it. There's proof. There's so much social proof out there.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Get around the people, listen to the books, go on Instagram, like, find the right things and find the inspiration, but also like get deep into your heart of like, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to excel at, change the world, connect with people? Go do it.
Yeah. And understand volition, in that there's a huge difference between I can and I can't.
Yeah.
Because I can turns into I will, right? Mm-hmm. I can't turns into I won't. And there's this great speech I heard one time where the speaker was talking about the volition matrix. So if anyone wants to look up the volition matrix, it's pretty interesting. And just starting with the 2 words I can, is huge. And go just even look in the Bible in the New Testament at how many times they talk about believing, right?
Yeah.
2 Corinthians 5:7, for we walk by faith, not by sight, right? Like we think we need to see it to believe it, but it turns out we have to believe it
Absolutely.
to see it. I had to realize all these things, man. We have so much that we see in this world, so much that we're like, and we're all starry-eyed, right? Like we're all just like little kids that are now just like adults that are big kids. The only difference is that now you can actually go and like achieve your dreams. You're like that capable person who, if you like the 3-year-old looked at you and saw you, would be like, man, look at that guy.
Yeah.
Like, look at that girl. Like, that's amazing. You know, like, oh, wow, we can do it. Like, we're these superheroes. And the only thing that gets in the way is our own limiting beliefs and the narratives and the self-doubt that we've built up over time. So, like, just believe. Know that you can do it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's one thing to hear this message, read the book, listen to the podcast, watch the YouTube video, but like, are you taking action on it? Do you have people around you that believe in you, hold you accountable, like want the best for you? That's where the big disconnect is, in my opinion.
Totally.
And that's where I'm recognizing this year, like, I would read all the books, listen to the podcast. I got like into like a maze of just like, how can I do more on personal development? And then this year I was like, you know what? I need mentors. I need to actually learn and grow from the people that have done it, not just what they're typing.
Yeah.
Like, that's great information, but like, that author is not following up with me. That author is not giving me actionable steps to achieve my dreams. They're just they're selling a book.
Powerful.
You know? So one thing you told me before was, I was looking for leadership for so long, and I just decided, if I can't find leadership, I'm going to become a leader. And it's so powerful, because even if you're not directly like, hey, I'm working as a leader and a, you know, coach, in the sense of like personal development, and like, these are my clients, you're leading so many people around us. Why is that important for people to look to? Finding a leader, finding a mentor, finding someone that not only will give you that advice and that wisdom, but like, hey, I want you to get better. I'm going to follow up on you.
Yeah.
You know, why is that important?
Well, number one, I'm going to flip this back to you in a second, because I want to know what mentorship has done for you and how you look at that too. You can only attract according to the frequency that you're operating on. And so if you're constantly waiting for leadership, or you're constantly waiting for love, or the next break, or whatever it might be in your life, then you're operating in a frequency of not having the thing that you desire to have. And so it turns out that if you want to have the thing you desire to have, you have to get on the frequency of the thing that you want, right? So it's like, you want success, like, how do you get on the success frequency, right? Because this is the frequency of where you're currently at. So we have to raise the vibration and like actually get on that frequency. How do you change your frequency? You change your state, right? You actually have to change the way that you show up. You have to live in a more positive attitude. You have to like believe in yourself. You have to show up as a leader if you're looking for leadership. And then naturally the leaders will be like, wow, there's something different about Matt. There's something different about Connor. I got to know what's going on with that guy. And next thing you know, you'll be talking with leaders. You'll be in the same room. You'll have opportunities that you didn't even know how they popped up. It's just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because you're on the same frequency. You can only attract according to the frequency that you're operating on. So you keep living in fear, then you're going to attract whatever people with fear are attracting. You know, you go out and you get what you get what you give, but you also get what you're looking for, right? It's like if you're scanning your environment for a bunch of things that are like, I don't know, that don't align with earning money or getting more physically fit or just like getting out of your current situation that you don't like or whatever it is, right? You're just probably going to find more of those things. But on the other hand, if you're looking for people who are crushing it and successful entrepreneurs and just, you know, you want to run an ultra, there's plenty of people running ultras in Austin, and you can get around those people. They're right here, right?
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. So I want to know from your standpoint, because I did tell you that in my 20s, I was the guy who was reading all the books, listening to all the podcasts. You're 23. And dude, like, props to you. I want everybody to know how much Matt is just crushing it right now, and just will continue to, because dude, you're just going for it, man. The podcast, the being a trainer, just next level everything in your life, man. You're just leveling up in so many ways.
Thank you.
And so how has having those mentors been useful for you? And just like, is it that you get to like, is it that they give you action steps? Do you ask them questions of like, what should I be doing? Then you go do it? Because I'm just curious about how that works in your life.
Yeah, so I started this year, I was like, I set a financial goal. I want to put X amount of dollars into personal development in 2024, whether it's buying a book, paying for a mentor, paying to go to a conference, anything that can get me better, like that goes towards that fund, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, the best way and the most expensive way is to find mentors. That's going to give me the most, bang for my buck. You get access to people one-on-one. It's not just a book like I explained. So I started off with 3 different mentorship scenarios. One was, you get a monthly call with someone. One was weekly calls with a couple. I actually interviewed the guy, the husband, is one of my first podcast guests. Like we connected 2+ years ago just on Instagram, and we just stayed in touch. And I try to get into his group the year before, and we have this call, and we get to the end, and he's like, "All right, here's what it is," and I was like, "I can't afford it." And it was like so difficult for me. So I was like, I need this in my life, but like the price, I just can't do it. And I remember sending him a video of myself the next day. I was just like so disappointed in myself, and I was like, I feel like terrible. Like this is it, but I can't have access. So I just said like, hey man, like I know you probably hear this a lot of like, can't pay for it and these people just disappear. I was like, I'm gonna give you my word right now that next time you guys open up a coaching group, I'll be the first person to sign up and I will pay in full. Like there's my word. I'm gonna work for it. I need this in my life, and maybe if I can't get it right now, I will get it. And if I wasn't the first one, I was the second one to sign up the next time they were opening it. So that started in January of this year. We went for 4 months, and one thing that they had me do was establish core values. And you hear about companies having core values. Like I was just like, that's a thing for a business, right? They're like, no, you need personal core values too. And I remember like on the call, they showed this list of like 100 words that could be a core value. And I'm like looking at it at first glance, I'm like, yeah, there's like 50 to 70 that like resonate with me. So how am I going to narrow this down to 3?
Yeah.
Maximum. It was like, hey, you need 1 to 3. It's like, I don't know. So we have this one-on-one call, and for an hour straight, just narrowing it down and come up with progress, leadership, and connection. It's like, these are all things that are meaningful to me, but more that I want to lean into in the future. And like, we break it down. We have operationalized systems of, how we're going to lean into it. And it's crazy how my life started to change after recognizing those. And like, one was connection. My connections have exponentially changed since I recognized like, this is important to me. I need to invest into this. Shortly after I wrote that down, I went to Easter service at Thrive, met you for the first time, connected with Harry for the first time in almost a year, connected with Dom for the first time in months. And now like I see these guys way more frequently. Like guys I look up to, guys that I get so much along with, like you and I, we're here right now,
Totally.
Yeah. People at the gym, like it just, that encouragement and that wisdom and experience of like, you need this and here's how we're going to get there. Now, like my life is so much different because of it. So I couldn't do that myself. I didn't even know I needed it, but somebody did.
Yeah.
And like that money I invest in there, I'm just like, even if that money doesn't come back immediately, like I know later in life that once the money comes in, it's going to be because of that. And I'll get 1,000 times ROI because of that. So just an encouragement for people, like take the leap of faith, because people got the skills out there in the leadership, like take their 10,000 hours.
Man, that's powerful. The next time this opens up, I'll be the first one to sign up. You have my word.
I saw the video say, I was just like, I'm gonna keep this.
Man, it sounds like an act of faith to me.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. That's so cool. I hope people just hear what you just said and can just take that and run with it. And I also just see that like with the personal growth books are great, but it's also like they write that book, and if there's millions of copies sold, then there's like they're almost speaking to millions of people.
Yeah.
And when they're telling you, Matt, or you in a small group, one-on-one or in a small group, it seems that it's very specific to what you need to do.
And they care. They're
Totally.
following up like, hey, how'd it go this week with your goals?
Yeah.
Oh, you're asking.
Wait, you're actually holding me accountable, and like I don't know that a book's ever been like knocked on my door or like called my phone. You know? Like,
Yeah, Dale Carnegie's not hitting me up.
yeah, totally. Like it's, you know, great stuff, Dale, but like, man,
Kind of disappointed in that. Why aren't you at my doorstep?
this would be great.
Yeah, like the $20 I spent, it wasn't enough for you to do that?
Yeah, right? Like, come on now.
That's
Love
funny. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have 3 more questions for you to close this out. I ask every single guest this, so I love getting the different perspectives. This makes this podcast really what it is. So first being, how do you define the word success?
I think success has a lot to do with core values, like you talked about. And am I living in alignment with core values? Because I think there's reputation and then there's character, right? And reputation is how the world sees you and what they think of you. And character is who you are. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's operating in that space of integrity. It's being a man of faith. It's doing what I say I'm going to do. It's constantly showing up, even when it's really hard and I don't know the next step. So I think success looks like listening to what that calling is on your heart, taking the risk to go for it, get in the game, persevering when times get challenging, and knowing that God has a plan through it all. And then ultimately, like, where you end up, we're just, in a lot of ways, we're kind of just guessing, you know? But if we can align with those values and that purpose, then I think success is like ultimately something that just happens because of all that. I think if we like search for it and we are like, I want to be successful, and then you make that your main thing, you could just be you don't know what's going to happen because of that. And you could end up anywhere. You could end up in the middle of the ocean. Like, how did I get here? But if you can align it with with those values, purpose, and vision, I think that's the success is like a product of all that.
That's beautiful. What is something you believe in that most people would disagree with you on?
I have to think about this one. I just think that, I don't know if people don't agree with it or whatnot, but that we need to have proof that it's going to work out. Like, how am I supposed to trust that the money's going to come if there's not like a set salary or paycheck?
Right.
You know? Dude, I let that hold me back for so long, where I was like, oh, I'm making really good money. And then, you know, last year when I had grossed like $140,000 by August, and I was absolutely miserable, and I had one client pay me $500 for nutrition coaching. I thought I was going to have way more money in my account, story for another time, but had lended $15,500 to someone that was never paid back. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to go to my business, start up my business bank account. Didn't have that. Spent money on whatever. So that $140,000 gross was wherever it went. It's kind of what you do when you're not aligned with the thing. That I just needed to make the jump. Mm-hmm. The only proof's been the $500. Try having faith and taking action and see what happens because of that.
I love that.
God takes care of it, man.
Yeah.
He will.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question for you. For someone listening to this that they want success in their life, they don't know how to get there, they don't know what path to go on, what is one piece of advice you leave that person with?
Maybe stop giving so much power to what the world defines success as, and start getting really in tune with what it looks like to you. Just try your best to, at least for a small period of time, eliminate the distractions. We live in a very like instant gratification type world where you can get a lot of things very quickly, like a dopamine hit.
Yep.
And I just think that I'm gonna quote Jay again, bro.
All right. He should be quoted.
Bro, right?
Dude.
He's got a lot of good stuff to say, man. He said, "What's fast won't last, and what's slow is for show."
I love it. I can see him saying it.
Says it all the time, bro. Like, and so I just think we need to slow down and give ourselves grace, you know, because we're just moving at such a fast pace, and a lot of us are tired and fatigued and exhausted, and we're thinking like, but if I stop, how am I going to be successful? Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's how you're going to be successful. It's in the slowing down. It's in the being patient. It's in the realigning with your vision. It's in that just being calm. Mm-hmm. Turns out that if you're always just frenetic or frantic, it just shows up in your life more. But if you're patient, calm, and loving, then you're going to give that to life, and then life's going to probably give you a lot of that back. So. Right. I think that's what I'd say.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, amazing insight. And again, like, thank you for showing up today. I know there's a lot going on physically and emotionally, but I appreciate the way you show up, the way you carry yourself, the way you impact others. So thank you for sharing your story. Amazing answers today, but thank you for being you.
We stapled it into existence, man.
Exactly. Literally.
Literally. Appreciate you, bro. Big time.